So for me as an individual, what I learned is that I will advocate for myself, and provided I know that whatever I've done, I've achieved it and I deserve recognition, I will not take it as arrogance, but advocating for myself.
Shonda Rhimes said, it's not bragging if it's true.
Exactly. If it is true, it's definitely not bragging. So I would just encourage people to just advocate for yourself. If you achieve something, if it's small, celebrate it, show it. Not all careers or not all study paths you do at the university in the Netherlands are employable in the Netherlands.
Interesting. Okay.
And I also felt that there was a bit of also unconscious bias as a woman of color, because I later on started sending my my job applications using my first English name and my dad's English name, and when I combined those, I could get called for interviews.
And I think so. America is the one that has a lot of this information database studies, right? It's like same CV, same resume, different name, like an African American name, and like just a quintessential white name, and you see the responses change drastically.
Definitely.
This topic is interesting.
Yes.
You're listening to B2C, a podcast amplifying the stories of Black women in the corporate world. I'm your host, Nancy Kashoshe. Let's get started.
Millicent, hi.
Hi, how are you?
You are the most elusive woman ever. You're like, I try to be mysterious. It's my thing.
Good.
Yeah, no, but welcome to B2C.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your platform. I'm really appreciative and grateful for it, for this opportunity to get to know you and to get to know each other as well. Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, let's start with what was the highlight of your week?
The highlight of my week was being able to go and get my own vegetables from a garden. I have an allotment here near where I stay, where I grow a lot of vegetables. And this is the time of the year where you have to kind of clear up all your vegetables before the autumn season starts up. So I was quite busy with that this week to get all the leftover tomatoes and leftover beans. So for me, that was kind of like the highlight of the week. That this being in a city, I'm still able to grow my own vegetables.
Yeah, I am actually fascinated by this. Where do you live again?
In Shandam, near The Hague.
Okay. All right. I'm just like, well, the Netherlands in general is a very planned, like spaces are very planned, right? Green spaces are planned. So this is like, is this a community garden?
Yeah, community garden. Yeah.
I love it. I have seen one of those around here in my city.
Yeah, they're rare. Yeah.
Wow.
Especially near big cities, it's not really easy to come across them. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. It's really, I thought you were going to say like, I went to the market or something like that. You're like, oh my God, it's growing.
I was gardening, using my hands.
That's amazing.
Connecting to Mother Earth.
Look at you.
I know.
Thanks for sharing that. Then let's get into your story a bit. So can you introduce yourself to our audience and a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then can you tell us 3 words that describe you and why?
Okay, so my names are Millicent Ngicho, and I'm originally from Kenya, and I have been living in the Netherlands for the last 10 years. I came here to do my master studies, and then after completing master studies, I got a job in the Netherlands and stayed. Currently, I'm working as a senior external partnership coordinator in a pharmaceutical company in Leiden. And this role focuses mainly on collaborating to drive innovative approaches to give an impactful healthcare innovations.
Right.
And to describe myself in 3 words, I would say I'm a dedicated person, very strategic and very collaborative. And that also links back to my role where I have to partner a lot with a lot of stakeholders, and also it requires a lot of high-level organizational skills, and also to be able to collaborate with a diverse group of people.
Okay, so strategic, collaborative, and what was the third one?
Dedicated.
Dedicated. Okay. All right. I'm curious to know more about those words. I'm sure we will find it in your story just now. Okay. So let's get into your career. Millie. So should I call you Millie from here onwards? Okay. Millie. I was like, do you go by the full name all the time, or do people call you? They call you Millie?
Mostly they call me Millie because some people find it easier. So just half of my name is sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Millie, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
So when I was growing up as a child, I was always intrigued to become a doctor. And this was because where I grew up in very, very rural area of Kenya.
Okay.
And I've always witnessed a lot of people within my environment really struggling to access the healthcare system, not enough resources, not enough doctors to take care of people when they were sick. So I was always intrigued to become a medical doctor.
Okay.
So after completing my high school, I did get the grades that couldn't take me immediately to the medical school because it's a very, very, very high level, competitive in the country. So I couldn't immediately get through. So I would first have to do a pre-medical school before I could get in. And that was also very, very costly. So my parents could not afford it. So unfortunately, I had to let go of that dream.
Right.
And then still think of like, okay, even though I don't have the opportunity to do the medical doctor, what other ways can I still be within the healthcare professional? Because that's what I've always wanted to be. And luckily, I still managed to do a bachelor studies that could still lead me to be within the healthcare related sector.
Wow. So I totally identify with that feeling of wanting to work in healthcare because of seeing the impact of it around you, right? That was the same for me that motivated me to work in health technology as well. And I did start off wanting to be a doctor as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But for me, the journey was a little different. I think I left Zimbabwe, right? So at the moment of after you graduate, right, and everyone goes to medical school, I instead went to America. And that changed the game entirely for me.
Okay.
Right, because in America, you do have to go through pre-medicine and then you get to go to medical school. But in that first degree for me, I decided, I got to realize, right, that like, oh, I wanted to do different things in healthcare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm super grateful for kind of the American system because I think I would have been great at it, but I don't know, right? And I'm like, I'm happy that I got more options. And I think it's realizing that you can still have impact without this.
Still within the same health sector.
Within the same health sector. Okay, so you then studied something that led you into the health sector. So okay, walk me through that story now of like, how did you transition into the job market?
So after letting go the wish to become a medical doctor, then I was able to do studies related to public health.
Okay.
Which is still within the healthcare. So I did a bachelor's in public health, and then after that, I worked a bit in Kenya with a few international organizations, and then I thought like, maybe it's also would be ideal to broaden my skills, and then I started applying for master's degrees globally. Right. Everywhere, Australia, Germany, Netherlands, everywhere. And then After, I think, 10 trials of being rejected on and off, I was successful to get an opportunity in the Netherlands where I was only required to bring my suitcase. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So when then opportunity came, and in 2012, I traveled to the Netherlands to do a master's in nutritional epidemiology and public health. And I did the master's for 2 years. And then after that, I started applying for jobs to be able to stay in the Netherlands, but also to be able to get international experience. So initially, my wish was not to stay in the Netherlands, but just to get an international experience everywhere before I could go back to settle in Kenya, because for me that will make me more valuable to come back with some additional experience other than the master's education. So I was applying for jobs everywhere within the Netherlands, abroad, other countries, and then luckily, after several trials, I got a job in the Netherlands to work with a research foundation, a tuberculosis foundation. It was really, really good fit because they were supporting countries within Africa.
Right.
With the healthcare related project with a specific focus to tuberculosis, which is still a big issue or a big disease in Africa. So when I got that opportunity, I was just so I was so happy that I could still give back to to the society or back home and do something that are really close to me.
Yeah, that would be impactful. Wow. Okay. Pause there. So many different things I'm curious about in your journey up until that point, right?
Yes, yes.
So to begin with, the idea to study abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that something that was it inspired by something, or was it just a wish that you had?
So it's a combination of factors. So the first one was that at the university I studied, they had collaboration with a few universities in Europe, and one of them was in the Netherlands. So every now and then we had students coming over to collaborate with my university, and then I was like, oh, this could be a good opportunity for me also to expose myself and be able to do a master's somewhere else, experience a different culture, different environment, different learning style and the likes. And then the second thing is that with my second job, I was working with an international organization, and we had also a lot of foreign students or foreign employees that would come as interns. And then I was like, okay, if they could have this opportunity to come to my country,
why can't I go?
Why can't I go? Why can't I go to also have that experience on the other side, to be able to, to get different knowledge, different skills, So those are the two main key things that inspired me to go out of the country, to be able to learn or to be able to experience a completely different culture. Yeah.
Okay. I love that. I love that you had, inspiration from people around you and then things around you. I'm always curious, right? What inspired people to move abroad? But also I was already curious too, like, why the Netherlands? Now I see the link there, because I will say this, right? For me, and I want to say mostly for English speaking, if we come from like Anglophone Africa, right? Netherlands is not quite on our radar, is it?
No, not at all. So also for me, when I was applying mostly to either Australia or the UK. But then the scholarship never came up. And then I figured out that in the Netherlands, most of the masters, they were already offering them in English. So that also made it a lot easier to also narrow down my search for where I could do the master's program.
Right. Yeah. So the Netherlands is not always in the radar of Anglophone Africans. And I was then curious, how did you land here? Now, this topic of your program being offered in English, that's also a topic that's changing quite a bit here right now, right? Have you heard of that news at all?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I'm not sure how Yeah, how successful it will be. It's a shame that it's going this way. But I also, on the other hand, I also understand that they also want to maintain,
Right.
that culture and have education programs within the local language, which I can definitely imagine. But then it also isolates a country in its own, because then
Right.
if you're gonna have studies only done purely in Dutch, then how are they going to do trades, or how are they going to collaborate? And again, also the learning materials globally, it's English. So
that's the thing. English has such a huge influence.
exactly. So
everywhere.
that's why I'm saying that I'm not sure how successful that kind of approach will be, but I think it's political.
Of course, I'm sure it's political as well. No, it's quite interesting. So we both live in the Netherlands, right? Just like even everyday way of life.
Yeah.
I learned Dutch, right? I learned Dutch so I could take the integration exam. I have some level of understanding, but it's not quite necessary for my everyday life.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what makes this country, then I feel like it's a big advantage for them compared to other European countries around
Exactly.
here.
Yeah.
To be so open and welcoming. And I think, it's quite interesting that they're trying to change the education system on that front. Great. All right. Then you came, studied, and then there was that moment of moving from from university to looking for a job here. Can you share a bit more on that experience? You talked about having a few trials, right?
Yes.
And I know the visa struggle. I've been through it as well in my own way. And I'm so curious how that worked out, how it went for you, and how did you end up eventually landing the first role that you took?
Yeah, so when my master's program was going to completion, just before I was graduating, I was already in the process of trying to look for internships or traineeship after the studies. And then I also had maintained my network, or rather contact with the international organization that I was working with in Kenya. They have an office here in The Hague.
Right.
And I try to make sure that I maintain that contact, so that upon completing my master studies, I will maybe perhaps try to see if they could get me an internship or a job opportunity.
Right.
So we had that, I had that kind of like a parallel plan. So just before completing the studies, I sent a couple of requests for internship or for traineeship, but unfortunately, those did not materialize.
Right.
And then, I came to realize that as an international student, you could apply for a program called Zukia, so Sachia. So I immediately applied for Sachia so that I could have at least an ample time, at least 1 year period, to be able to look for a job. And if you don't get a job, you're required to go out of the country. After that 1 year. So I applied for that 1 year Sachia program. And in the meantime, I kept on looking forward, or like sending applications left and right. And I must say it was not the easiest way, because I also didn't have the background on how to tailor-make my CV to the European or to the Dutch standard of
Did you get any support from your school?
No, I didn't get support from my school because, for one, I came on a Dutch government scholarship.
Okay.
And the Dutch government scholarship requires you to go back to the country of origin upon completing your studies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's an interesting point to begin with, but I'm curious whether there is actually structured support at all for students to look for jobs.
Not back then.
Not back then. Okay.
Yeah, so not back then, because the idea would be you come here, you study, and then with the skills you gain, you will go back to your country and utilize those kind of skills. Of course, we did have every now and then career days where they just show us, what are the possibilities of employment in the Netherlands. And again, this also goes back to the kind of study background you have, because again, not all careers or not all study paths you do at the university in the Netherlands are employable in the Netherlands.
Interesting. Okay. And so were you finding that yours is challenging from that aspect?
It was already challenging in that perspective, because if you do nutritional epidemiology and public health related studies, it's a challenge to get into that kind of field, because you probably will need to have really professional Dutch language, because then you're more likely end up in the academia, or you end up at the public health within the municipality or within research organizations which require local language. So that was really a challenge already with my studies back then. Yeah, so as I said, I sent a lot of job applications, had a lot of rejections, and some of these positions, were due to just bluntly cultural differences, language barrier, or your study background did not fit the industry at that moment. And again, I also did not have the local, I lacked local network, because a lot of jobs in the Netherlands, at least my experience, the local network is very, very, very key. And I also felt that there was a bit of also unconscious bias as a woman of color, because I later on started sending my my job applications using my first English name and my dad's English name. And when I combined those, I could get called for interviews.
This topic is interesting.
Yes.
Because it has actually been studied.
It has been studied.
There is data out there that has definitely, even just sending the same CV with different names. And I think so America is the one that has a lot of this information database studies, right? It's same CV, same resume, different name, like an African-American name, and just a quintessential white name. And you see the responses change drastically.
Definitely. And the funny fact is that so when I will appear in the interviews, there will be, you can see
they're shocked.
Facial expression, like they probably expected some English woman or American woman, and then they
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a few of those unconscious bias
experiences,
to being a woman of color, and that also led me to refocus my my job seeking strategy to, before I will send any job application, I will read into the company's profile to see to prioritize diversity and inclusion in the agenda before I will waste my time sending any job application, because the chances are very high that you will just get rejected even though you have the qualifications. Because, for instance, there was even one that I thought I fit the profile. The company was doing a lot of work in Africa. And then I'm I'm an African. I come from there. I have the cultural background. I understand the context. And then it turned out they just gave it to someone who was also just straight from the university, had no experience, had never been in Africa. So it can be frustrating.
Absolutely. It can be crazy frustrating, right? And I think international students will face this this challenge much more heavily for multiple reasons. Foreign students in particular. During that time, what did you have a support system?
So luckily I joined the ambassadors group. So it's called Holland Alumni Ambassadors. So this is the platform through which we got the scholarship, so the NUFIC scholarship. So they had a platform for ambassadors. And through that platform, we were able to create something called Holland career ambassadors to support international students. So
Right.
we international students came together to try to support each other to navigate the Dutch market, what kind of jobs to look, which kind of companies are employing international people. So that platform is still there, and I'm still very active in it. I still support international students here and there whenever they
That's amazing.
they need support, because I went through the whole process on my own, and it was very challenging. And if you do not know how to navigate them, the job market in the Netherlands,
right,
can be very, very, very challenging for us.
Yeah. I'm so happy that you are still doing this work and then supporting those who are coming after you. This organization then, is it, so it's within your alumni network?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was curious now, like, does it need any support? Does it get any support from outside? Can we shout it out in some way here?
Yeah, you can definitely shout it out. It's called Holland Alumni Ambassadors.
Okay.
And it's an open platform, so any international students can reach us out. Our contact details are there, and we every now and then get requests from students. And
so any international student from any university,
within the
reach out. They don't need to have come through your program.
No.
Okay, that's really interesting to learn. I think we know that a lot of students listen to this podcast. And this may be a really great platform for them to get support.
Exactly. So if there is any student that will need this kind of help, we can maybe put a link.
We'll put it in the show notes. Make sure that people get to know about it. Wow. Okay. So going through stuff yourself and then coming out and supporting others, that's incredible and amazing. So tell me something. Now that we will talk about your job in a moment, but I'm curious to follow this conversation around DEI, right? And how companies, the bias that you experienced and stuff like that. What is your experience of this topic now of diversity and inclusion?
My experience of diversity and inclusion at this moment is that I must say that I'm happy with the progress that is being done so far. However, sometimes I feel that some companies still have it just more like a checklist, that it's really not really ingrained in the whole system. It feels it's still a bit more on the surface, because it's an upcoming topic that every company needs to have like a checklist. Okay, do we have diversity, inclusion, and equity within our company? There is still a lot of work that needs to be done, but so far I'm happy with the progress.
Particularly in the Dutch context, right? Because I also experienced DEI in my company, and I was actually an ERG leader. I'm curious to know if your experiences have also shown more inclusiveness around you, right? And also around you in your work, but also elsewhere in your life in general. Do you feel like that living in the Netherlands?
I will speak for my company, and it being American company, I think there's already a lot of influence from the American, that they were already focusing a lot in the diversity, inclusion, and equity. And that you can already see with the employment, that it's became more and more diverse compared to my previous employers or where I used to work. That there is a lot of tension being an international company. It has a lot more focus on diversity and inclusion. However, when you go deep down to the typical Dutch organization, that diversity and inclusion still has a long way to go. I say so because of some of the job applications I did, and whenever I could meet the employees or rather read through the company profiles, some job openings that I applied for went for interviews with the same company for like 1, 2, 3 times. reject me on the basis that I did not fit the cultural organization. And then I'm like,
what do you do with that feedback?
What do I do with the feedback? But also, you take me once, second, a third interview. It takes you a third interview to recognize that
to realize
I don't fit within the company's culture. So that made me really question a lot. And to be honest, I do not apply for jobs in small Dutch companies.
Fair points. That is a very fair point.
Yeah.
Millie, your job. What do you do now? Can you talk a little bit more about that role and what you do and what you like about it, perhaps?
So in my role, so I'm a senior external partnership coordinator. And in this role, I coordinate the scientific work that is not being done in-house with our scientists. So I collaborate a lot with the laboratories or contract research organizations, different universities, different professors or consultants globally. So this role, I work globally. So I have a lot of clients in the US, in China, in Australia, and in EU. So I make sure that that the work that is not able to be done in-house by my scientists are outsourced to these companies or these laboratories that can help us to be able to develop various projects. So that's it in a very high level.
Yeah,
in a nutshell,
global.
It's quite global, and I really love the fact that it's quite global in the sense that you come across different set of skills of people, different personalities, and it's quite a challenging job because you also have to be a bit political in a sense as well to make sure that every party is are happy that you also still exactly you're still able to perform your work in a due diligent and acceptable way.
Interesting. So tell me now, at this point of your career, what are maybe two of your biggest lessons?
One of my biggest lesson, or rather something I stand with, is that you have to vote for your own self. You have to be your cheerleader in these kind of roles, because for instance, when I applied for this job, I wasn't sure that I will get it. I look at the job profile and I met only 50%.
Right.
And then I just had a small conversation with myself. How worse can it go? Just rather than just sending a CV, how worse can it get?
Yeah.
And them rejecting me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just applied for this job, and this job they needed somebody with a PhD in electrical, like quite high tech.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, I look here, I have experience in managing clinical trial related projects. I'm gonna apply for this job. I have project management or rather stakeholders management skills. I'm gonna apply for this job and we will see when the job comes.
Right.
So I applied for job and went for the interviews, got really intimidated because it was full with the 50 plus old white men interviewing me. I had like 4 times interview, got really intimidated, very scared, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to be confident. I'm going to face this through. And if it's meant to be for me, it will be for me.
I love that. Okay, no, stop. There are like multiple lessons here, right? Yeah. So there is definitely this phenomenon that, people with marginalized identities, we will judge ourselves much more harshly, right? I think, first of all, we are socially conditioned to think that we have to work twice as hard.
Yes.
there's a social conditioning, and then there's the fact that it's actually true, right?
Yes.
That we kind of have to be excellent most of the time. And that's something that, we just live with all the time.
Yeah.
Then you now then face, so most of the time what happens, right? There is actually data on this too, that women, for example, they will not apply if they meet 50% of the requirements. They will be like, no, I won't apply, right?
Exactly.
Whereas men are like 50%. I mean,
exactly. So we have kind of already double or triple challenge,
right.
Laid there before you send any application.
Before you even send the application.
Yeah, so you're already really having your self-doubt. So I just put it down. You know what? I'm not gonna let this self-doubt
get to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing I loved about how you went through this experience is, I think, courage is not the absence of fear, right? It's doing it regardless.
Exactly. It's doing it regardless. As I say, just sending your CV, the worst that can happen is they reject you.
Right. Yeah.
But then you learn from it.
Just do it. And you walked into that interview and you were like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing.
Exactly. I entered the room, I'm like, okay, it's men, I'm a woman of color, they're already gray men, very old.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm gonna be confident and
my best shot. And do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And you landed the job.
Yes. I'm still there 5 years later.
So advocate for yourself. Yes. Just do it. Nike should sponsor this episode, honestly. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the second one?
The second one is networking.
Networking. Okay.
Networking is really, really important, especially if you're new in a country, and also if you're not aware of the local systems, how the applications are done. Networking is very, very key to really get you up to speed, and you have to also try to be a little bit loud.
Right.
And louder means that not just loud, but a bit strategic, because also what I figure out that with the jobs here, if you're not loud enough, nobody will think of you.
Right.
Nobody will even notice you.
Be out there.
You definitely have to be out there. You really have to send yourself out there. You have to be a go-getter, because there are millions of other people. Why would they employ a woman of color if they have enough EU people that can do the same job?
Right.
So you have to show. You have to show it 10 times better than them. It is just how it is.
Yeah. So a follow-up question on the networking, right? When you look back at your student experience, how do you think you could have networked, or how are students networking now these days?
Back then it was slightly difficult. Because if you're new and there were not a lot of platforms, so this we are talking about 10 years ago, so there were not many platforms where you will just quickly go have like a career talk chats or events being organized by companies on the spot to just understand what career possibilities are there. But now that has changed, and now there are also a lot of things online that you can just easily log in and follow, But back then, not many possibilities were there, So with networking, so it starts just within where you are as a student, not waiting. Like when you land in the country, start networking. Don't wait until you're almost completing your studies. If you really know you want to stay, you want to get international experience, you don't want to immediately want to go back to your country of origin, you want to settle immediately, you land, get yourself up to speed, start to connect with your immediate peers, connect with your lecturers, send open letters to companies that you feel would suit your career profile.
Right. Yeah. So I think what's so interesting, what I've seen, right, is especially when you come from where we come from, people have the tendency to want to put their head down and do the work, right? they might also be going through a lot. The transition of of starting to live in a foreign country is it can be quite challenging, right? But I definitely with you on that. They should prioritize networking because it is the way that they're going to actually advance outside of that, right? And I think right now in the Netherlands, I do love one community in particular. It's called OMEC. Do you know of OMEC?
Yeah, I know OMEC.
Yeah. So I love OMEC, right? It is this platform for biculturals, and you have, students. There's a lot of students who are connecting on there, and then you also get to meet professionals, and it can be a really great way of. We'll put all those resources in the show notes for the students who are listening and looking for ways to put themselves out there. Then follow-up question on the Get Loud, right? So I'm curious what your experience is of that in terms of, so I think what it triggered me to think about was definitely, I think we do know that there's a formula. Well, I want to say I took a training once, and it had this formula it was like a women in action training, right? And it was very much saying like one part, like we all have been conditioned to think you put your head down and do the job and do the work, right? And your work will speak for itself. Right. No, right. You already know, right? So exposure is actually 60% of the work of like getting yourself ahead. But there is then also on the back end of it, the balance, right? Or at least the perception, the challenge of perception, especially of when women do talk and are loud, especially women of color. When they own their achievements, right? Yeah. There is the perception of arrogance that comes with it sometimes. So what are your experiences just around that whole topic, or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so just as you say that, you have to find some sort of a balance in all this, which is always very difficult to find a balance. Mm-hmm. For me, I find it interesting that when we advocate for ourselves, show ourselves, it comes out as arrogance. However, for men, when they speak loud and show what they have done, even if it's a small, they always make it look bigger than it's not necessary. So for me as an individual, what I learned is that I will advocate for myself, and provided I know that whatever I've done, I've achieved it, and I deserve recognition, I will not take it as arrogance, but advocating for myself.
Shonda Rhimes said, it's not bragging if it's true.
Exactly. If it is true, it's definitely not bragging. So I will just encourage people to just advocate for yourself. If you achieve something, if it's small, celebrate it, show it.
I love it.
Because if you don't show it, people will also not know.
People will not know, right?
Exactly. People wouldn't know. So also within your career, advocate for your career growth, seek for promotions, speak loud. Yeah, you can only be recognized when whatever you've done matches also your energy to show, to prove that, yes, you've done this, but here I am,
I love it. I love it. No, it's true. I'm with you on that one. Millie, so what ways of advocating for yourself are you doing? Like, do you have platforms, or maybe share two ways in which you are actively advocating for yourself right now?
So one way is try to join mentorship programs where you can also learn, for instance, if you want to grow in career and want to be in leadership roles. For instance, there is this, we have like women in tech in the Netherlands. So if someone is interested on those platforms, for me, those are some of the platforms that I get to just also to learn from other women, how they grow in their career, and also just look for like-minded people with the same kind of energy that matches yours to be able to grow. And again, also just read to be up to speed, be up to date with the current trends, what are going around globally. You just have to keep on updating yourself.
Yeah. Keep yourself updated. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, I also listen to a lot of podcasts. I also check a lot of YouTubes. There's so many resources
So
out
much
there.
information out there.
There's so much information that if you really want to advocate for yourself or seek for mentorship related possibility, that you can definitely tap into.
I love it. I love it. Dropping gems, Millie. Great. Okay. Millie, one Black woman who inspires you and why?
I'm always inspired by Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
For the fact of how she transitioned in life, how she grew in her life, and for all that she has achieved, and it's just impressive how you can achieve so much, provided you trust the path and know what you want. So she's always my number one go-to. If I want to listen to podcasts or read her books, she's my favorite.
Oprah, good. What about a book that has inspired you?
One I like Becoming by
Michelle Obama.
By Michelle Obama. Yeah.
Why do you like that book so much?
I think it has quite different aspects in the sense of how important also your cycle as a woman can really influence how you become as a woman, and how she also explained how she also had to let go some of her friends when she became in the role of being the wife of the president. So for me, is key to be able to have that possibility to filter whom do you want to tag along with in your cycle as you grow in your career path.
Different seasons of your life,
new friends, new networking people around you. So it keeps on changing. It doesn't mean if we are friends today, we have to tag along for the rest of our lives. Sometimes the energy switches every now and then, and
that's okay.
Be aware, and it should be okay, and just be accepted. Yeah.
I love it. All right. Millie, it was such a pleasure talking with you today.
It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Have a good day. Bye.